y'all, it's me again, Maciej from Trade Coffee. We are going to be making some flash brewed iced coffee today. This is one of my favorite ways to make coffee, really, especially in the summer. We've got 40 grams of coffee right here. We've got 300 grams of ice. We're gonna have some water as well. And basically what makes this different than other forms of iced coffee is that unlike cold brew, it uses hot water and some ice to immediately cool that coffee. And when you're using hot water instead of just cold water, you can extract more aromatics, you can extract more acids, really pleasant, nice, bright flavors that you can't really do with cold brew. So for certain coffees, definitely prefer this method of brewing iced coffee. It's really delicious. All right, so we have a chemex here. You can do this with any pour over. You can even do this with a Mr. Coffee or any kind of automatic coffee maker following the same principles. So we have a chemex and we have 300 grams of ice. Get that in there somewhat violently. So you have 300 grams of ice. We're going to put the chemex filter right on top of that. Some of y'all pre-wet your filters, I know, which I don't really do anymore. We don't need to argue about it, it's cool. If you do pre-wet the filter, obviously do that before you put your ice cubes in. And 40 grams of coffee. I'm going to grind this real quick. Grind it on a relatively medium-ish setting. Probably a little finer than I would usually do for a chemex, just because we're going to have less water and maybe even a shorter brew time, we'll see. So I'll be right back on the grind. By the way, I prefer to use a scale just because that's how I've been taught to brew coffee. If you don't have a scale, 40 grams of coffee, if you're dealing with like a medium roast, will probably fit just about into a half a cup. It'll definitely be a little more if it's a super dark roast coffee, a little less if it's a denser, super lightly roasted coffee. But you'll get in the right ballpark generally with that. And with ice, if you're used to brewing chemexes, just try to fill it up with ice to like the same level that you usually fill it up with liquid. Unless you have like super pebbly ice, that should get you in the right ballpark as well. All right, so I got my coffee ground. I'm gonna get it right into the middle of this chemex and try to get it fairly level. And what we're gonna be doing here is brewing a chemex with half the amount of water we usually would for this amount of coffee. So 300 grams of liquid water, 300 grams of ice, and 40 grams of coffee. So like a 1 to 15 ratio, slightly strong, but not like a concentrate or anything. All right, so water's ready. I'm going to start by pouring like 85 or 90 grams of water and starting my timer, which I have on this scale. And this first part of the brew is something we call the bloom. So that hot water is going to get the carbon dioxide that's been built up in coffee roasting to start getting the heck out of there. And if the carbon dioxide gets the heck out of there, it'll be easy for the rest of our brew for the water to really penetrate and get that good stuff out. So I'm going to let this go for 45 seconds. And like I said, 90-ish grams of water. Usually the recommended bloom is twice your amount of water as coffee. I like to err on the side of a little more water. If it drips through to the bottom, that's where it's going anyways. I just want to make sure all those coffee grinds are saturated. So at 45 seconds, I'm going to start pouring again, and I'm only pouring 300 grams of water, which is less than I usually would for a chemex. So I have to pour pretty slowly, pouring in a nice spiral. I'm going to start getting to like 175 grams of water in there, and then just pouring a little more. Let's say 25 more grams every 15 seconds or so. You definitely don't need to be that regimented. I just like keeping myself on schedule if possible. If the water starts going through so quickly that you start seeing dry grinds, definitely pour more water. And maybe slow down your pour in general the next time. But we're definitely not seeing any of that here. pouring like this, we're going to get to that 300 grams that we want in just about 2 minutes, which is great. And then we'll see how long it takes for that water to drip through. Approaching 2 minutes here. Going to get the rest of our water in. So yeah, usually for 40 grams, I would go to about 40 grams of coffee. I'd go to about 640 grams of water. Here I'm doing 40 and 600, but just replacing half of that water with the ice. So 600 total grams of water, half of it liquid, half of it solid. And I'm just going to let it drip through. Like I said, this is also something you could do with your Mr. Coffee. So just fill up that water reservoir halfway, or your Mocha Master if you have a nicer automatic brewer, or your Bonavita, and fill your reservoir directly with ice. You could certainly do it with a Hario B60 or a Kalita Way or any kind of different pour over. There's nothing about the chemex that makes this especially adept at this. You might have to pour even slightly slower for, say, a V60 or a Kalita. But all of those will produce a coffee that, like I said, is a nice, bright iced coffee compared to cold brew. All right, so we're at about 3 minutes and 15 seconds. I'm starting to see the top of the grinds appear, which is pretty great timing as far as I'm concerned. So I'm just going to pull this. To my bowl here. I'm going to have a sip. So again, this is not concentrate, so I don't need to water it down. You could add more ice cubes if you'd like, but I'm going to drink this pretty quickly, so I'm just going to do that. Totally delicious. Again, a lot more acidity and brightness in a really positive way compared to what you get for cold brew, and a lot quicker to make as well. 4 minutes versus 12 hours, so that's a difference too. All right, y'all, have a great day. Keep brewing delicious coffee.